Right now, I'm on my way to Hayes Falls, which is definitely one of my favorite local, easily accessible waterfalls. And my plan for photography this morning is sort of twofold. First, I want my images to more capture the surroundings and the finer details, and not just the falls themselves. Albeit, I definitely want to take some images of the waterfall and showcase the falls themselves, but I really want to focus on the finer details and sort of the scene surrounding the waterfall. To get to Hayes Falls, you just have to follow a roughly 2-kilometer trail just outside of Woodstock, New Brunswick, called the Maliseet Trail, which is an incredibly gorgeous, really pretty and relatively easy trail, albeit incredibly wet right now, which leads me to my second objective of the day, which is to not get wet and to not fall into any big mud puddles. So the Maliseet Trail is surrounded by lots of really gorgeous, dense forest, and I was just filming some B-roll to sort of demonstrate that, and I think I found a composition. I really wasn't planning on taking images in the forest because there's not much interesting light or fog or anything super dramatic right now, but this might work. I don't want to spend too much time here, but a quick little snapshot I think would be nice, and I can kind of remember this location for another day if there's better light or more dramatic scenes in the woods. As far as quick snapshot images go, I'm quite happy with that. One thing though, I wish I had had a slightly wider lens, really just to get a bit more of the base of the trees in the image, because I think one of the most interesting aspects of that photo is sort of the root balls and how high they go up. But it's one for the books, and it gets my creative juices flowing for the day. I can hear the falls, which means I'm getting close. Just around this corner, go around a bend, and then I head down into the river valley, so this will be really exciting. I just made a mistake that for some reason has been incredibly common recently. I'm on top of the waterfall. I know this trail really well. I've spent a lot of time here, and I think I was too invested in looking for birds that I took a wrong turn. So I've accidentally ended up here, which wasn't the plan, but hey, you gotta be adaptable. Wow. I love this waterfall. It's really, really pretty. And it's quite big too, so it makes it even better. Having taken a wrong turn, it might actually benefit me. This might be where I want to be if my goal is to sort of show the waterfall, but more of its surroundings and the finer details. The little stream to my right has a few little cascades that are quite interesting. There's lots of colors and textures with all the roots in the ground and the green mosses and some rocks, some jagged rocks, some smoother rocks. So I'm actually going to hang out up top here for a little bit and see what kind of compositions I can find up here. After a quick look around, this cascade here, this little one, is the one I want to try and photograph first, because it's kind of an interesting shape. It's kind of like cut out into a bit of a V shape, but also there's these interesting rocks that could be some nice leading lines or a nice interesting foreground subject. On the trail to get here, I had to go under a couple fallen trees, and with my tripod on my bag, it smacked into the trees and I got stuck a couple times, and now everything's full of old dried sap and everything's really sticky, which, if you know me, I don't like having things on my hands, so this is going to be interesting. So I've just taken the first composition. This one sort of includes those rocks in the foreground, as well as a little bit sort of in the background that have the same shapes and colors, and I think it balances the image quite well. Now I'm going to move around just a little bit, get a little bit higher of a vantage point, and sort of shoot down towards the Cascades and see if I can sort of accentuate the shape, the little V shape of the Cascades themselves. This image is slightly different. It's more shooting down towards the Cascades. I don't think I like it as much as the previous one, but here it is nonetheless. So I'm going to try and take one more image of these small little rapids up here. The light is getting really good, and I think it's hitting the whole main waterfall. So I'm going to head down there in just a minute. But if I can compose it right, I think I should be able to get both Cascades in the image, as well as some interesting foreground with some nice rocks. So that's what we'll try now. Just trying to compose this image here real quick. It's fairly straightforward, just framing up both Cascades in the middle of the frame, and then with some interesting subjects, some nice big boulders on the left and right hand sides of the waterfall, and then some nice river rocks in the foreground sort of leading back towards the Cascades. I think it makes for quite a simple, but quite a nice image. Capturing that image, I think it's really time to move on. The light is really shining down there right now, so I'm going to try and get down there within a couple minutes and hopefully catch some of the light on the falls before it disappears for the rest of the day. I realized why I kind of made a wrong turn. Fairly big tree across the trail, so I guess I just didn't even consider that this is where I was supposed to go. But I'm almost there now. Wow. I really don't think I need to explain why this is one of my favorite waterfalls. While there's still a little bit of morning light on the falls, I'm going to try and compose an image of the whole waterfall. Just one, just so I can kind of encapsulate the waterfall as a whole. And then I'll go back to taking more detail-oriented images and sort of putting the falls into perspective. I found my first, maybe two compositions here. They're very similar, but there's a nice big root running alongside next to me. And if I get in just the right position, I can sort of frame it up on the right-hand side of the image, sort of swooping down and leading you into the falls. I think it makes for an interesting image with some nice subject matter. One problem I'm having is that there's so much dynamic range needed for the falls right now because the top is so bright and the bottom is much more dark that I kind of framed the image up so that it only really included the bottom half of the falls. Right where I'm standing, I think I found another image. This one is much more detail oriented and not about the waterfall itself. And you're gonna think I staged this, but I promise I didn't. Along this log, that was sort of in the foreground of my previous image, beautiful little pine needles right inside. Like, I don't know, it's perfect. How could I not take an image of that? Very happy with how that one turned out. There's no way you can hear me right now, but if you can, I've headed up next to the waterfall to see if I can get some interesting shots with some of this green moss along the side of the cliff in frame with the falls themselves. one image that I know I want to get sort of tighter in on is there's about, let's say, 4 distinct little cascades running down the falls that are separated by really dark rocks. And I think if I shoot that in a landscape orientation, and then I crop so that it's long and skinny, even at 16:9, or if I try and compress it even a little bit more, I think it can make a nice image. With that, I think I'll end the video here. I hope it really showcased that sometimes you don't have to look at the bigger picture and you can sort of focus on the finer details and still have a really good time taking images and get some images you're quite happy with. I'll leave a little bit of a slideshow here at the end of the images I took at the falls, as well as some other ones I took that maybe I didn't videotape myself doing. And if you like this video, maybe consider subscribing for more like this in the future. See you next time.